Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Neon. We're going to talk about Disney animation, but not the usual way. We're not going to talk about Disney animation per se, but we're going to talk about alternatives to Disney and Pixar animation. How with Disney owning everything and Disneyfying everything, it seems like a lot of people are looking for another outlet. They're looking for other animated stories. They're looking for other voices. We're seeing kind of a resurgence of anime lately, especially with the streaming wars coming up. With HBO Max in particular, it seems like they're really going to be bringing a lot more animated content to that particular platform, given the fact they own Cartoon Network and Rooster Teeth, Crunchyroll, etc. So they're going to have a lot of anime. They're going to have a lot of original productions too. They're bringing Adventure Time back. But there really does seem to be a dearth of non-Disney style animation. And Geeky sent this to me the other day. I thought I'd take a look at it and see what people are saying, because the Disney look, the Pixar look, it's getting tiresome. And when everything is Disney, when everything is Pixar, nothing is, anymore. Pixar used to stand heads above the rest, and now Disney and Pixar movies, for the most part, are pretty interchangeable. I mean, it's all the same thing. So there definitely is a demand for different kinds of content, different kinds of styles. And I think if you're an animator or creator, especially with the streaming wars coming up, there might be some opportunity there. If nothing else, if you're just a viewer, if you're a fan of animation, now's actually a pretty good time to be a fan, because we are seeing some really unique styles, some really experimental styles. They're talking about Into the Spider-Verse, which had a very, very cool style to it. They're talking about Netflix's upcoming 2D, 3D, I'm not sure exactly what it is, animated Christmas special, which I saw the trailer for and I was completely blown away, because it was sort of a throwback to everything I loved about Warner Brothers and Disney before Disney became, the Disney we know it as today, the mega conglomerate, Disney during its peak, and some of the other shows from like Laka, etc., etc. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. This article from Fast Company, and before we do that, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're at about 70,000 subs, hoping for 100,000 very, very soon. We really, really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much for it. And we do want to talk about something related to Disney that's not just complaining about Disney. And we do complain a lot about Disney because, something we were very passionate about for a very, very long time. And we've seen the company just take a turn for the worse and become something that's sort of the antithesis of creativity. Very manufactured, very corporate, very, very safe. Very safe. So it seems like anything daring, anything new, anything unique is going to come from other studios at this point. So here we go. Fast Company, stop selling your kids short with just Disney and Pixar films. The next wave of visual and storytelling innovation in animated movies is here. Can the streaming revolution make it popular? I'm actually pretty excited about some of what I'm seeing, I gotta tell you. Once upon a time, animated films for kids represented some of the most innovative work coming out of Hollywood. The technical achievements in CGI that Pixar ushered in with 95's Toy Story, coupled with a fresh new way of telling stories that have both sharp humor and emotional depth, marked a paradigm shift from the classic 2D fairy tales that dominated the genre. In 2001, DreamWorks' Shrek pushed the narrative even further with its cheeky tone and sophisticated humor that redefined what an animated comedy, ostensibly for kids, could be. Also took home the Oscar in the Academy's inaugural Best Animated Feature category. For much of the early aughts, Pixar dominated the CGI landscape with a string of critical and commercial hits, including Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. Yes, once upon a time, Pixar actually innovated, and now Pixar is just an arm of the Walt Disney Company churning out sequels. The last really innovative Pixar movie, well, Coco was pretty good. But I mean, so the last couple Pixar movies have felt very, very safe, or they were just bad. Good Dinosaur was just bad. There was also competition from 20th Century Fox's Blue Sky, Universal's Illumination, Pixar's own parent company, Walt Disney Animation. See, this is part of the problem. Disney owns them now. Disney owns Blue Sky now. The only real competition they have is Illumination, which is Universal and DreamWorks. And the last movie they put out, Abominable, which wasn't Illumination. I think it was DreamWorks. It's hard to tell who is what now, but it did not do that well at the box office. If it's not Disney, it doesn't seem to do well at the box office, but I think we've reached peak Disney too, where people are getting burnt out on Disney movies. However, Frozen's gonna make a lot of money. Frozen is going to make a lot of money. I have no doubt Frozen's gonna make a lot of money, but what happens after that? As a genre, 3D animation was a new force to be reckoned with, raking in billions at the worldwide box office. In the past few years, 3D animation has started to look more like the greater Hollywood landscape, becoming more and more dominated by uninspired sequels and a sense of sameness. I agree with this. I agree. Everything looks the same. The latest sequels to films like Shrek, Ice Age, and Toy Story have morphed into cash grabs. For every fresh, imaginative offering like Frozen and Zootopia or Inside Out, there are just as many desperate examples of studios trying to kickstart a franchise from existing IP with dismal results. Look at Angry Birds, look at the Emoji Movie, look at Ugly Dolls. 25 years after Toy Story injected the genre with a vibrant new visual and narrative energy, 3D animation at the big studios just isn't the groundbreaking art form it was. No, everything looks the same. It's like, oh boy, another 3D family comedy. Who cares? Who cares? You know, they've got one coming out with Will Smith. Who cares? I don't care. Big budget studio films have become a very generic place for a long time. Says this researcher in animated film at the University of Sunderland in the UK. But what a lot of big animation fans would say is they would want to see a bigger range of techniques on the big screen. I would love to see Disney do 2D again, like a straight up 2D movie. I would love to see them do that. Not just different styles in the CG films, but more hand-drawn films and more stop-motion films. The only place that's really being done is independent and international animation. That is true. Independent animation houses like Leica have experimented with expansive CGI stop-motion hybrid worlds in such films as Kubo and the Two Strings. Excellent, excellent movie. And this year's Missing Link. Haven't seen that one yet. You know, you can't out Pixar, they said. You can't out Pixar, said David Justade, president of indie animation distributor G-Kids, which released The Breadwinner. So, you know, they go on and on, talk about independent movies, and they talk about Netflix, how Netflix has actually had a fairly positive impact on animation. And I would agree with that. I mean, as much as we slam on She-Ra, you know, just because of how it's treated the classic material, the source material, you know, we do get gems like the Dragon Prince. We do get gems like Hilda. You know, there are a lot of fans out there that follow us that were fans of BoJack Horseman. You know, these shows would not exist on a lot of networks, I don't think. So Netflix has been great for animation. And, you know, I did a video the other day talking about Warner Brothers and Warner Media and their HBO Max service. And it seems like they really have narrowed in on animation. You know, they have a lot of anime content coming from Crunchyroll. They have access to the entire Studio Ghibli library. They're bringing back Adventure Time. They've got stuff, you know, they're bringing back Genlock from Rooster Teeth. Now, you might not like those shows, but it does show that they have a commitment to animation. It does show that they have a commitment to animation, and we're seeing some unique styles pop up. And I think that's good. I think Disney needs the competition because, you know, Disney Plus, we know what we're going to get. Disney Plus, we're going to get more Disney. We're going to get classic Disney, Volta Disney, everything Disney. And Disney stuff, Pixar stuff is starting to look very, very samey. It's safe. It makes money. They're making sequels now to princess films and Pixar films, which, you know, I never thought was the intention. I don't think either Pixar or Walt Disney Animation wanted to make direct sequels themselves. They usually did the much derided direct-to-DVD cheapquels, but they're making theatrical sequels themselves now, and it just shows, you know, how little faith they have in anything truly unique. So we'll see. But what they're talking about is Chris Butler, the writer-director of Missing Link, said that what streaming has enabled is for people to make more creative gambles and still have it seen by a large group of people. I agree. I agree with this. I think this is, I mean, same with YouTube. You know, YouTube animators are doing very well now. People want animation. They love animated content. You know, they're just getting tired of the same thing. They're getting tired of Disney, tired of the Disney look. They're obviously burnt out on the DreamWorks movies. How many Madagascar movies do we really need? You know, and that's kind of what's going on now. So they're talking about Paranorman, which I loved. They're talking about different stories. We talk about Leica, which does some very unique stories. Now, here's the thing, though, and here's where it gets tricky. It really comes down to money. And, maybe streaming makes more sense for a lot of these projects because Leica movies have never done well financially. As far as I know, they've never really made a lot of money. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not looking it up right this second, but I'm pretty sure that the guy in charge of Leica, that his dad was like some big Nike CEO or something, that they sort of helped bankroll those movies. Streaming services, I think, will help bankroll. Basically, people subscribe for other content, like they subscribe to HBO Max for Friends, but the subscription money actually goes to create, some really unique stuff. Same with Netflix. People are going to subscribe to Netflix anyway, so they can kick some money over to the Dragon Prince or to Hilda, and get those shows made as well. Whereas with releasing these, films theatrically, anything that's not Disney, that's not a mainstream animated movie, has historically always had a hard time at the box office. I mean, I think back to the 1980s, and it was a coup for The Secret of NIMH and American Tail to make as much money as they did. Don Bluth working on those movies, that was kind of a coup. And even American Tail and Land Before Time, before they did like umpteen million garbage sequels to it, had Steven Spielberg attached to it. So in the 1980s. So yeah, it was going to make money. But that was a coup because up to that point it was always Disney. It was always Disney who made the money at animated movies, and then DreamWorks came along and, sort of upended that. But now we're right back to where we started from, where it's basically Disney. If you're going to have a hit animated movie these days, it's going to be a Disney or Pixar production. And, there's just not much room for these, more risky experimental films, which is unfortunate because I love like art house animation. I love stop motion animation. I love some of the stuff in the 80s that nobody saw. Rock and Roll is one of my favorite guilty pleasures, but it almost bankrupted Nelvana. They had to do Care Bears movies to survive. So there's that, and they're talking about the visual model and how they really have to push forward. Now Netflix, this movie really, I thought, was pretty interesting. Klaus, that's what it is. It's basically Santa Claus is coming to town, but the visual style, it looks like a 2D animated movie, but it's actually 3D. It's really, really cool. I saw the trailer for this. I'm like, my God, this movie looks amazing. This looks really, really good. I would love to see it released theatrically. That's not going to happen. It would never make any money. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse made money, even though it's 3D, but because it's a Spider-Man movie. It's a Spider-Man movie. But it didn't make as much money as Homecoming, but it looks really cool. And, so, I mean, it's possible that, there are some animators on Netflix and HBO Max and Peacock or whatever that may go on to do theatrically released movies. But Disney, once they bought Fox, they shut down a lot of projects. There were some Blue Sky projects I believe they shut down. They shut down Mouse Guard, which looked pretty amazing, and it was going to be a 3D CG animated fantasy movie. They shut that down. So, Disney buying Fox has not been good. Has not been good for animation at all, and they've pretty much become the only game in town. Like I said, DreamWorks' last couple of movies have not performed well. Even How to Train Your Dragon 3 did not do that well. And it has basically become a Disney Pixar world. But the internet opens up all kinds of doors, and I think that's where I want to go with this. Is that if you are an animator, you are a creative, you want to make stuff, you want to tell your own stories, the internet's wide open. YouTube is wide open. You can find an audience online. There are people who make very, very good livings just creating animated content on the internet, and I would have said Rooster Teeth was one of those places, but they sold out, and now we saw what happened. So if you're going to do it, you want to, keep your voice and you want to be able to tell the stories you want to tell, then don't sell out to Disney or Warner Brothers. But there are a lot of opportunities there. And I know we have some viewers who have said to us, they're like, well, I can't move to LA. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. You don't have to move to LA. You can make animated projects anywhere in the world now with the internet. You can do whatever you want to do. You can make comics from wherever. Back in the day, when I wanted to break into comics, you had to move to New York, or you had to be close to New York. You can live anywhere in the world. You can make animated content anywhere in the world and put it online and be able to compete against these major studios. And I really do think that's the future of animation. I think the future of animation and comics even is it's going to be independent creators who create this stuff, because the margins just aren't there for a lot of these corporations to really care about. And the reason all the Disney stuff looks the same now is they got to make bank. They got to make big bucks, because the company has grown to such a massive size that the only experimentation you see with Walt Disney Animation at this point are usually the shorts they attach to another sequel, another Disney sequel or Pixar sequel. You don't see anything truly experimental anymore, because they really can't afford to do that. And I think really the future of it is going to be online. It's going to be streaming. It's going to be YouTube, whatever video platforms happen in the future. That's where all the really cool animation is going to be. And the box office is just going to be more Disney sequels, more Pixar sequels. They're going to crank them out because they need the money. They need to make the money. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Big thanks to Geeky Sparkles for sending this over to me. This is a very interesting read. I'll put a link to it in the description. You can read the article for yourself. And, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later. Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at Print Ninja. We've been using Print Ninja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention Clownfish TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com, or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.